Welcome to part 2 of me making this lovely piece with my new markers. So I'm starting off with the dark marker and filling in the dark spots first, leaving some space for the light. Now this part was a bit tricky because there was a lot of tiny spots and I had to be a bit more attentive, which was okay. I'm not really complaining. I was really having fun and the picture is turning out quite nicely. I was not feeling like recording lately at all. I was just so tired and don't even know why, but was going through a lot of stress, and recording these videos is also a bit tough, but it's a good practice. So again, I am not complaining because finally I got to it with my little sprout of inspiration this morning, and I was like, okay, I'll just sit and try and talk while eating my buckwheat here. It's quite a lovely morning here. It's raining and I'm an absolute rain person. I go out when it's raining. I don't go out when it's sunny. And just the smell of the rain and the freshness, it's just amazing. I love it. So here I was going in with a lighter shade, but then I was like, okay, it's a bit too light, and I think I went in with a darker one. I also added some shadows above her eyes and around her face to give it more depth. So good question is when do you feel inspired to make art? I was thinking about that, and for me, usually I feel inspired to do things in the mornings. I'm very much not a night person, and usually when I get up and I have something that I want to do in mind, whether it be art or something else, and I feel like, yeah, I could do it even if I don't feel that great on that given day. As for the inspiration, for me, it comes a lot from visual and aesthetic things. I get inspired a lot by looking at other people's art or watching movies, aesthetic movies with a good story, because a lot of my characters have their stories, so I often get inspired by thinking about the story first, and then I go like, okay, I want to draw that now. So I'm adding some deeper shadows on the dress here because I want to make it reflective. So I went around and added dark spots with a dark marker, and then I kind of blended it a bit to give it more of a satin look. And if it were colored, it would definitely be gold or red, like the sexiest colors, or black. But no, the coat is black, so the dress would be gold or red. Oh, funny thing, coming back to inspiration, I feel like these colors actually inspire me as well, even though I do draw in grayscale. So the next thing I go for is a fun part, which is a colored accent. Accent? I don't know. Man, I gotta Google that. And I went around filling in the empty spaces that I left. So it's accent. They don't really pronounce accent as accent, and accent is usually pronounced as ascend or ascent. Here we go. Ascent, which means climb or go up. And that pretty much was the final step for the character. And I moved on to the background, which I knew I wanted to be something luxurious to fit the overall noir theme, of course. But I was too lazy to think up of something creative, so I just went with basic, some curtains and columns. Actually, never mind, I didn't really line it here. I just went in with the shadows right away and started filling in darker spots, working from light to dark, because again, I was afraid to mess up. I noticed how I paint widely depends on how scared I am of making mistakes, which is quite an insight really when I think about it. And coming back to inspiration, I definitely know what doesn't inspire me, and one of those things is comparison. Oh boy, does nothing kill your vibe more than comparing stuff to someone else's, and I definitely have a problem with that. It's pretty hard for me to recognize my art as unique and not try to emulate anyone else or anyone else's art. And I feel like a lot of artists run into that problem. I guess a lot of people in general. It's like we are raised in such a culture that encourages comparison, and that is tough. That is tough to allow your inspiration to flow when everything around you is based on comparison. So the background is getting shape now, and I'm going in with a shade darker marker to make shadowed areas stand out a bit more. And I think then I realized that a shade darker marker was still too light, and I switched to darker marker. And now it's a bit more visible. I still wanted the background to be lighter than the main character, so she stands out. That's one of the rules for good looking pictures, is like either make your character lighter than the background or the other way around. Pretty much it's all about directing your eye, and in this case I was trying to frame the overall dark silhouette of my character with a more lighter background, as well as making her stand in the doorway, so all the curtains and everything just directs your attention to her. So I gave some shape to the curtains with the dark marker as well, filling in some rounder shaded areas, and then going in with a shade even darker for the most shadowed areas. Yeah, if I tried a bit harder, I probably could have come up with something more interesting for the background, or even maybe bother to make it even and kind of make sense, because right now it doesn't really make much sense. But hey, it looks good, so whatever. I'm not one of those artists who tries to make everything perfect. In fact, that's a habit I'm trying to move away from, because just of the amount of stress that it causes me, trying to think of every detail and what other people are gonna say about that one detail that is imperfect. But in truth is, people don't recognize those details that we as artists worry a lot about. And that actually goes for life in general, not only art. Of course, details matter as well, because details add up to a complete picture, but as long as 90% of the overall picture or look or image or anything else for that matter is how you want it to be, then I feel like it's good, and there is no need really to overthink it. Now on top of it all, I go with a liner. And I remember debating actually if I should line this or not, but then, and the background didn't really fit the character style-wise, so I decided to line it. I was trying to make very thin lines, something that really doesn't catch your eye a lot. I remember panicking a little bit about these columns and being like, oh my god, they're so uneven and they're sideways and all that. But then I also remembered my perfectionism flaw, and I was like, I'll just keep it that way and not stress too much about it. Learning to make mistakes and make things work, even when some details don't really work out how I want them to. I added some details here and there to make it more interesting. And then went in with a blue accent to kind of tie everything together, because it really wouldn't make much sense if blue light was on her but then it wasn't really on anything in the background, even though how I placed the light didn't really make much sense either. But in the end I liked it and it looked good to me and I was happy with it. And most important, I had fun with my markers. this is the finished result. I hope you enjoyed this video and learned something from it, and have a good day. Bye.